Good morning. I'm Howie Sheriff, and welcome to the Cypress. There were some technical issues this morning, and so we're recording the class for later presentation. Back in the ballroom, I've got my chair with a pillow for the back. I've got a little cushion for my cushion, and therefore that will raise my hips up because when standing, my hips are higher than my knees. I think that would be the same for you too. Therefore, when we're seated, it's a good idea to consider having the hips higher than the knees because we can then project our spine upwards. It's the 4th of July weekend coming up, so I figured we'd prepare to march in a virtual parade. You don't even have to leave your seat. You can march while seated, standing, or even in motion. We'll see what happens after this is broadcast and how you're moving about. Just getting grounded and started, we practice the idea of two-fisted spacing between the feet and knees. While you're seated and getting your cushions situated, I'll just move the chair over a hair and demonstrate standing. And I'm looking down and getting a sense of that. I could take my knees, bend it, and put my fists in there, and that's great. Got a nice little view in the background. Hopefully it won't look like I'm practicing in the water. When I'm standing, I like to bring my belly up a little bit. Now, belly up here means a good idea. Instead of going belly up, I'd like you to be belly up. And when you bring your belly up, it allows your diaphragm, which is under your lungs, to drop down. It's like physics. Then standing with the chair, I have my pinky on this hand, touching the chair as a reference, and then I can lengthen and lift my chest up a little bit too with my belly. So I'm bringing it up and forward, and therefore my shoulder blades can go down and back. While you're seated, similarly, come forward on the seat cushion a hair, and notice if you can lift your belly and chest up and forward, and let your shoulder blades down and back. This is all getting in service to march in the parade. Want to march proudly upward and not be looking downward in front of us. So therefore, we're going to start with some breathing, whether you're standing or seated. And when we're standing or seated, it's an active process, not just a little bit of something, but we're trying to draw the breath all the way down to the base of the lungs. This is very important these days to have improved or optimal breathing. I like to turn my palms forward because that helps to curl my shoulder blades together and down. So whether you're seated or standing, let's make this part of the process. We see my hands are facing back when I finish. So I'm going to start and open on the inhale, which facilitates lifting my belly and chest. And then when I rotate the hands to face backwards, my belly can draw backwards. So there's a timing with this so that we can also start to warm up the shoulders. For me, that's a pretty constricted area, despite my efforts every day. It's just the way it is. When I'm seated forward on the chair and my arms are out to the side, I can make it like little wings and extend down. See how my arms are drawing downward? See my hand contrasted against the wall. See it's going down towards the floor and my crown is coming up. So it's almost as if you were on a saddle on a horse getting your giddy up. So there's an inhale and a lift, and an exhale and a curl. See how my arms are rotating this way also. So we're starting to get a dynamic active breathing with other things to engage, just to wake your brains up a little bit more. We've got this lifting in the belly, the chest, the palms are forward. Next, I'd like you to engage your buns, because remember it is bun day, and engage your buns and just hold the buns gently while you're doing your breath cycle. Finish the breath cycle, release the buns. You may have a little bit of a drop in your posturing because the buns are significant stabilizers. Similarly here, I'm engaging my buns and it'll feel differently than standing. But I'm trying to keep them engaged, finish the exhale, release. And then you may notice how much you slump in the chair. Who says I slump? And this may help you sit up a little taller. Good. So now we've got an integration of the front of the body and the back of the body, engaging the buns and the shoulder blades. Good. So there's two sets of stabilizing muscles. Shoulder blades stabilize your head. The buns can stabilize your pelvis and your spine. Good. Couple more of these. And if you're standing, you can take a break and sit down at any time. Consider this recommended lifting the hips higher than the knees with a cushion. Good. Take a break and just shake it out. We're not ready to march yet, but the buns are a big part of marching. So are the inner thighs. If you can imagine, if you're on a horse, your legs might be spread a little bit, and you're trying to bring the knees just to gently engage the side. Here, your feet don't have to be wider because there's no horse. So you can get off your high horse and come down to your two-fisted spacing. And when you engage your inner thighs, it gives you the capacity to draw your feet down a little more firmly without even trying. Think of the breathing, the inhale, the belly comes up, the inner thighs come together a little bit, then you can activate your buns. Exhale, engage the thighs, engage the buns, palms back, finish the exhale, release everything, kapoo. Good. If you're standing, see how that looks for me. I've got my opening, my tail is drawing down, my buns are engaged, my thighs are engaged, and I'm practicing this inner thigh engagement, which also is a stabilizer. Good. Finish the exhale, release. And notice that my knees may bend a little bit because I'm extending through my feet. Good. Release. All right, so we're getting a rhythm of breathing, standing, or seating, but extending. The extending is the part that I'd like to emphasize. As we get to the concept of marching, when we're lifting our chest up and forward and the shoulder blade coming down, there's some capacity to raise an arm up. Notice I'm not cranking it up super high, and I'm coming in a movement that's slow. Because for me, that's about as much as I can do or choose to do. And just noticing where my body flows with my breath, facilitated by my shoulder blade. I'm not pushing through the front of my shoulder. I'm actually trying to relax that. And the more that this may relax, the range of motion may improve. Good. And I sense that my arm is going up a little straighter, and I'm breathing too, despite yammering so much. Good. Let's do one more of these. And I'll switch to standing while you switch sides. I'm going to move over a little bit and shift the chair. I'll use one arm for stabilizing. I'll use the other arm for lifting. This side is more compromised for me, so I'm going to move the chair over. Stay in the screen. Good. Ugh. Just like they say in The Wizard of Oz, oil can. Ugh, that's the breathing. But also the positioning by stabilizing with my buns and my inner thighs and drawing my tail down. That all facilitates my shoulder blade drawing down. Because of my conditioning, I've come to find that the slower I go, I can maintain my integrity in my base. And accept that these are the limits for today. We'll take our successes and enjoy what's present. Yes, I used to be able to raise my arm a lot more, and I imagine you've had some things that you've adjusted to also. Good. Let's finish that up and shake it out. I'm going to move the chair back a little and take a seat. All right. When we're marching, there's a lot of extension through the leg. And that's why I emphasize the spacing as well as the thinking of the inner thighs, so we get an extension downward through the foot. Over the years, your feet, like tires, may have worn differently. The padding fades away. People get irritated feet, fasciitis, and the joints get out of whack, and everything seems out of true. So therefore, these inner thighs help to extend. And I find when I inhale and push my tush back and engage my inner thighs, my feet are drawing down. How about for you? So let's breathe, inner thighs, a little bun. So as if you were on the horse, you're extending your heels over the stirrup, that little bar that your foot rests on, that goes essentially under the arch of your foot. And then you can also explore all the toe pads, big toe pad, all the way down to the pinky pad. The little tiny pinky pad. You might have just the tiniest pinky, but it's got a pad. So let's explore those elements of the feet stabilized by the inner thighs. So when you're marching, every step matters. Good. I'll stand and shift the chair a hair. What I'm thinking about here is all this activation. Feel my buns getting a little firmer for the moment, and then releasing. But the inner thighs are also important as a stabilizer for fall prevention. And when you have an awareness of the thighs and your feet, then you can maintain some mind-body connection in areas that tend to fade over time. Notice if you're curling your toes up or not, if your feet are rotated. Remember, this is a big deal. You're warming up a lot of muscles that may be pretty passive most of the time, except when walking. Good. So let's finish that warm up of here. Take a seat if you need. I'll pull the chair back a hair. Wonderful. So there's an integration of marching of lifting a leg and an arm. It's not so important, especially for me because I'm limited, how much I do, but the quality that I do it integrating the breath. Therefore, the inhale is the positioning in a sense, and the exhale can be a movement. I'm going to turn the chair sideways. And by being in a forward-seated position, I'm not falling back to lift my leg. I'm just trying to separate the heel and the rest of the sole from the floor. So it doesn't have to go up very high. What I'm trying to integrate is the shoulder action with the exhaling and finishing. Therefore, if you're standing, just practice the idea that you can raise a foot on your exhale, draw it down on the inhale. Good. Exhale, lift it up. Good. And notice, if you can, if you're tipping it all, by how much or little you're gripping this chair, but also how much activation is going in this outside leg. So it's just a little bit, not high kicking. It's not the Rockettes yet. Good. So see how I'm maintaining this integrity on the stable side. Then I'll tuck my elbow in and point my fingers straight up by drawing my shoulder blades back. It keeps my hand near my chest area and that I'm trying to lift straight up and down. Good. I'm avoiding my elbow wonking out to the side. I'm trying to keep this forearm, avoid arcing the wrists if you can, and keeping that same possible plane. Good. I have a challenge here. I really have to focus on keeping my elbow in, which cascades up my neck. So take your time and explore. It's no rush. The parade's not till a little later. We're just warming up. Settle in for a moment. If you like, get a drink of water. It's kind of warm these days. It's important to stay hydrated. I have a little tickle in my throat for the moment. Good. All right. Now sometimes it helps to have a little bit of sway in the walk. A shift from side to side. And over time, our hips may be out of line, our feet, our joints, they may have all worn, the bones may have bowed a little bit. So what is really optimal, it depends on what your body can accommodate and practice. What I'd like to think about is a little pelvic rock from side to side. By going side to side, you'll be activating this hip area and have a chance to observe your legs, and the knees may shift forward and back. And pay particular attention if your feet are coming out of a stable position. So you may activate the feet a little bit more as you go. Standing, I'm going to move the chair a hair so I don't bang my bun. That there's a little hip sway. And I'd encourage you to go slowly because we don't know what's going on down there. There's a lot of emotions, stressors, wear and tear. So there's room to take some time, and you could see how I might sway differently from one side to the other. Or maybe it looks the same. But it feels differently for me from one side to the other. And I'm also trying to keep my head level. So when you gaze forward, try to pick a point in front of you that is about eye level or maybe a tad taller, and see if you can keep lifting your chest and spine while you're breathing and swaying. Good. And then to add a little emphasis and to slow it down. Good. This is why it's very important on the chair to have your hips higher than your knees. Beautiful. Keep swaying. Go slowly. Finish up. A couple more. Then on your next exhale, settle and rest. Beautiful. All right, so we're getting this area warmed up, noticing the feet so you don't march out of true. Beautiful. All right, now we're going to integrate the belly breath just a little bit more, because when you can activate your belly towards your spine, it's a stabilizer too. Not just laying back and letting it settle and compressing your diaphragm, but to get out of the way. Good. Keep breathing. Wonderful. So as before, we started with the belly coming up, the shoulder blades coming down. The palms are coming forward. Good. And then when you exhale and the palms come back, see if you can draw that belly back a little bit if it feels safe and comfortable. Good. Keep activating gently, slowly to whatever is comfortable. This may be foreign, or if you've had belly dancing, maybe it's similar, but a different focus. Good. I'm going to stand and show sideways. My belly is coming up. My palms are forward. I'll turn back, and then my belly is coming up in here. This activates the base of your lungs at your diaphragm and helps clear out stale air and engages muscles that are deep between the belly, the spine, and the pelvis. Good. Now that we got that, we can imagine that on an exhale, as the hand is up and the knee is up, the belly is in. Good. See if you could take a breath, lift on the exhale, notice the standing foot, hold the pose for an extra breath if it's safe and comfortable, and then come down. Similarly, we'll go the other side and take an inhale. Exhale, bring the belly back and lift the knee and the opposite arm. Notice if you're tipping in the chair. Good, come on back. Standing, and I'll do that. Moving the chair over just a little. I've got a referencing here. This time, what we're going to do while standing is the inside leg lifts and the outside arm so that we have a stability with the chair as we need it. You might do a table, kitchen counter, but make sure it's very stable. Inhale up and keep practicing if you're seated. Exhale, lift. Good. Notice if your foot is shifting, try to keep the toes orienting forward. Your outside bun is very activated. Finish it, land. Notice if you had a tip a lot. Let's do this a couple more times. Inhale, just get the breath. That's the fuel. Exhale, lift. Activate the buns. Engage the belly a little bit. Keep breathing. Stabilizing with a support. Please don't leave that. Bring it back and rest. Beautiful. Take a break. Practice a little more if you like. Drink some water. Settle down. Beautiful. All right. Let's roll the shoulders a little bit. I'm going to turn sideways and show what I mean. I'd like to think of it rolling, but not so much lifting to my ear, but rolling in a very small circle, almost like a teardrop, as opposed to mwah. So think of down and up, down and up. It may be very, very subtle. It is for me because my shoulders are very tight. By having my palms up, it allows a nice stable base here. The palm up is what helps me engage my shoulder blade better. If you're standing, you have room to get a little saucier because you have room to extend. But avoid bringing up to the ear, just down and back. Now to avoid collapsing, That's where the belly engagement and the butt engagement happens. So the focus is really up top as opposed to losing integrity. Yes, as you swirl, keep breathing. We're not whipping something, we're gently stirring it. Sauce doesn't get whipped, does it? If it's whipped, it becomes cream. So we're just being saucy. Similarly, you can switch sides, keep the hand as a referencing. It's a wonderful extension. Keep breathing. We're trying to also relax the neck. Avoid raising the chin and try to keep it level. You have your sighting in the distance while you're breathing. All right, getting the roll going. Good. I'm going to have a seat. Feel free to get some water. Set your cushions, align your chair. When we go slowly, you develop more power, more strength in the muscle because we're opening it and closing it slowly. So therefore, what I'd like you to consider is having your arms by your side, elbows tucked, and the hands projecting upward. If you're seated, I'd just like you to practice raising one on the exhale, bringing it down on the inhale, raising the other on the exhale, bringing it down on the inhale. Because the inhale is the load, the exhale is the extension. Of course, there's always room to do it the other way, and that's all right. But there's sometimes an optimal, and then there's the alternate. Good. Oh, this is so tight for me. How are you doing? Wonderful. If you're standing, similarly, you're just practicing raising the arms. Now here comes the little trickier part, and I'll stand and demonstrate for the standing folks first. I have the chair back. I have this outside arm. When I'm lifting on the exhale, active bun. Good. Land on the inhale, bring the belly up. Exhale, shift the leg and lift the knee, bringing it back down. Good. Inhale, finish the inhale. Exhale, bring the belly in. Open the front body. Good, bring the belly forward as you inhale. Shift, activate the bun. Good, da da da. Notice if you're curling or gripping with your toes and see if you can just relax that while still engaging downward. See how slowly I'm going? Because it's a very slow moving parade. Good. All right, I'm gonna have you just practice a little bit more of that. Think of that belly drawing in on the exhale while the legs lift. Similarly, seated, see how I'm really going slowly on the exhale, landing, finishing the inhale, shifting forward. Avoid teetering side to side. Even if you just lift the foot a hair, or even intend it without it actually happening, that's okay too. Because we're just trying to integrate the mind, the body, with the breath. That's all. Good. A couple more of these. Finish up. And shake it out. I know it's getting warm here in the ballroom, and the air conditioning's on. So it might be warm in your homes too. Feel free to keep sipping some water. Take a break as you need it. All right, with the hands, if you're standing, make sure you have a stabilizer, meaning you could rest your back against the wall. If you're seated, make sure that you're not falling out of the chair. Your legs are nicely positioned. I'm gonna take an inhale. I'm gonna Engage my belly, and then exhale, lift. Bring it down on the inhale. And here. Good. So folks seated, you can see how that is a slow integration. Folks that are standing, I'm not going to walk backwards into the picture. I might fall in the lake. But I can also use the chair and the chair back as a referencing for my sacrum and my tailbone. So therefore, I'm not leaning into the chair, but I'm referencing slowly. See how my leg crossed over? That's not preferable. Good. And at the same time, I'm using this other arm to touch the chair. So you might use the wall. So I'm not mashing through it. I'm just resting my pinkies or the back of my hand. And with this other arm as a stabilizer, I can then avoid tipping to the side. So go slowly. You don't have to have a high knee. You don't have to have a straight up lift of the arm. We're just going slowly. And when you have that need to take a break, please do. I wasn't ready there. I was thinking of taking a break. Good. And I'm stabilizing with this other arm. Good. You may not see it. I'll turn the chair. So you might see my hand back here. See how it's touching? And then the belly is drawing in while I'm lifting. And I'm getting stability. Good. Now we're not doing a fast march, but the idea is this activation to stabilize your core, build inner thigh strength, and be safe. Couple more. Let's prepare for a march and a swim. So we can, good. Now that's if seated. If you're standing, good. Notice how I'm rotating one leg out and one arm out. However, it's important to go to the other side, to have an arm and have a leg. My outside leg is the stabilizer. Good. That's different than straight up. We're just rotating the hip around and playing with the shoulder roll, almost like a breaststroke. Good. If you're seated, just keep playing and alternating. High, inhale, high, good. Inhale, high, exhale. One more, inhale, high on the exhale. Good. We're not going to do both arms and legs because that would be rather difficult standing. So as we're considering this marching and moving, we can create this whole ripple through the body. So now that you have a slightly greater awareness of integrating elements, we can ripple just a little bit more. I'm going to stand and show what I mean. Rippling just a little bit more, sort of a wind down while in a stable position. You can squat a little, roll the shoulders, but we're still activating the bellies on the exhale so that our spine integrity is maintained. Good. All right, winding down. We've had a very nice march. However, did we have instruments? Did we have batons? Did we have banners? What were we carrying? So we can just sort of imagine that there was something in our hands as we're going. And that you can roll your fingers. So let's say, consider a baton. We're twirling the baton on the exhale. For me, my hands have swelling from arthritis, and I'm constantly trying to keep them fluid in movement, reducing the swelling. So you can keep alternating, activating the hands. Couple more breaths. Oops, I did stop paying attention. Good. Notice I started using the same leg. Good. One more. Good. Finish and rest. All right, so we've had a nice little march. We've gotten a lot of our body activated. And this is part of the service of breathing and meditating just for a little while. And as I mentioned with the hands, there can be a lot of tension. Just even noticing where our fingers are is a unique experience. And just having the palms up might be a little foreign also. So we're getting our bun back, and if you're standing, I'd invite you to find a cushy seat where your hips are higher than your knees. Get your stability with your positioning. And similarly, my elbows are by my side, and I'm drawing my shoulder blades back to lift my heart. What I'd like you to consider is that we have these fingers, and that on the inhale, we'll open the palms, and the exhale, see if you could bring your thumb and your pinky together. See, I have my other three fingers pointing upward, and there's my thumb and pinky. See if we can take 3 breaths with the thumb and pinky together. And just notice how that feels in your body. I can tell you that with my experience, I feel different drawdown on the back of my neck and shoulders. So we'll finish that, and then we'll go to the ring finger. See if you can sit up, draw your tail down, engage your inner thighs. Use your belly breath and let the arms settle and feel the connection all the way down to your fingertips. At least these 2. Good, finish that and release the ring finger. Next, let's take the middle finger. That might feel differently from side to side, it does for me. I'm drawing my elbows and my forearms down and even trying to open up my other 3 fingers. How does that draw on you? Good, release that. Then we'll go to the index and the thumb. See what that feels like. That might be a more conventional posturing that you may have seen in the past, a lot of this. But each of these positionings can have a slightly different impact than they do for me. See how they are for you. Good, let's release that. Then let's go to the pinky and the ring, so that only the index and the middle are extended. See if you can lift the heart and notice what that does. And take 2 or 3 breaths there. Good, release that. See if you can go to the ring and the middle, like wolf pack. Good, sit up. I'm trying to open up these other fingers, and I'm actually getting some stretching in my inner hand and contraction in my outer hand. Good. Do that one. Then let's go to the middle and index. This is interesting. I really have to work to open my ring finger and the pinky. Ooh, boy, that's different, and I'm distracted and losing some of my posture. So keep this. Oh, that feels differently. And wiggle that out. And as you imagine, you can go through different combinations. You can have 3 closed. We're going to skip that. It's very complicated for now. and just go to the thumb cradled inside your hand. Avoid crushing it. It's not something that we're trying to squeeze something out of, but just position and get some nice contraction in the inner hand and stretching the thumb across inside, and a little cradle with the fingers. Palms up. What is that like? Shake it out. And then let's just make a regular fist. Regular may be different on each side. My hands close differently. I'm not clenching, I'm just curling it. Curling it like I'm curling my shoulder blades. Lifting my heart. Opening the shoulder area. Good. One more breath here. And then slowly uncurl and wiggle it out. Then you can let your hands be like anchors of your upper body on your tops of your thighs. And draw the shoulder blades down. And breathe for a minute, which I consider about 10 breaths. So allow yourself that luxury, letting your mind count slowly backwards if that helps. Some slow conscious breathing. Move the body as it feels right, or keep it still without strain. Beautiful. Let's finish with a nice strong exhale. Then let's take our hands together. I'd like to use the fingertips. My elbows are gently tucked by my ribs. Let's take an inhale and open our hearts to each other and bring the fingertips together. A gentle bow with an exhale. And say, Namaste, the term that means the light in me acknowledges the light in you. Thank you for coming to the class, and hopefully you'll have a delightful 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. See you soon.